Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, of course continuing on reviewing Halloweenish films, and as I teased in the last review, and yet another film celebrating its anniversary, and this being directed by none other than Tim Burton. That's right, and hey, it's always, perfect on, during Halloween time to watch something of Tim Burton's. And I think especially this. That's right. From 2012, based on the show from the mid-1960s to the early 1970s, the same name, and that was created by the late Dan Curtis. A film adaptation of Dark Shadows. Yes. Now, I remember, cause seeing a little bit of behind the scenes, and even Johnny Depp talked, saying that he at one point called up Tim, and he said to him that we ought to make a vampire movie, and thus that's where it began. Like that, we got Dark Shadows, and it's cool, because, Burton got to do a movie that's all about vampires, and, he's had vampires before in some of his movies. Nightmare Before Christmas, hey, Batman, I mean, technically, vampires turn into bats, but you get my point. So I think, this movie, it's mutual. There are those that enjoyed it, and some that are just, but hey, I enjoyed this. I think it's pretty good. It's a good Tim Burton film. Even when I showed this to my mom for the first time, we watched it together. She watched it for the first time. She actually enjoyed it too, and I remember she laughed at some things, which I'll get to as I review this. But yeah. So, the story. An imprisoned vampire, Barnabas Collins, played by the one and only Johnny Depp, is set free and returns to his ancestral home, I got that right, where his dysfunctional descendants are in need of his protection. Yep. So, it opens, of course, with, how Barnabas Collins becomes a vampire. He first fell in love with Angelica Butchart, I think I got that right, played by the lovely, talented actress Eva Green, who would, a couple years later, would work with Burton, two other times, which being in Miss Peregrine, where she played the character with the same name, and was in the live-action Dumbo, so, and definitely Eva Green, she's one of those actresses that fits in the world of Tim Burton's movies, you know what I mean? And the same goes for, say, Johnny Depp and Michelle Pfeiffer and Helen Bonham Carter, so, and Christopher Lee, because all of them appearing in this as well. So, of course, as I said, Johnny Depp as Barnabas Collins, who does transform into a vampire, and basically, because, he had an affair with Angelique, I'm sorry, pretty sure, I'm saying that right. Barnabas, starts to fall in love with, Josette Dupress, I think I got that right, too, and, Josette, actually, because, not yet, at one point, Angelica, she kills, Barnabas's parents, and then, puts a spell on Josette where, she just in the zone and just walking and to her death, falling on the edge of the mountain, or, a cliff, basically. Cliff. Unfortunately, she dies, and, even when Barnabas falls in and tries to save her, he was going to kill himself to be with her, but he can't die because he's become immortal. He's become a vampire. So, there's that, and then Angelica, she frames Barnabas and has the villagers turn against him, bury him alive, his coffin being chained, and then many years later, in 1972, that's when we get the introduction of, another character, and played by the same actress who was Josette, and that being the lovely, talented actress Bella Heathcote. And, yeah, she was pretty good in this, definitely. And so, she's Victoria Winters, who is on her way to, of course, the mansion. Well, yeah, it is a mansion, of course. You know, it's a big house. She's on her way there, and basically, she's become a governess to a little boy named David Collins, played by the young Gulliver McGrath. Am I saying that right? McGrath? Pretty sure, yeah. So again, she becomes David's governess, and we meet the whole family basically at that mansion, the Collins mansion, basically. There's Willie Loomis, who I guess, if I recall, like, his part, it's just like, you know, he would get the door, he would be a driver to everybody else, and being played by Jackie Earle Haley. And if I'm correct, like, I've got this on IMDb, of course. Yeah, okay, now I remember. Well, he had a part in Zack Snyder's Watchmen, and, most notably, he would be Freddy Krueger in the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake. So, he seemed to pull off a decent likeness to Freddy Krueger, but he could never top off Robert Englund. Nobody can. Robert Englund was Freddy Krueger. Anyways, then there's also Roger Collins, David's dad, and Roger being played by Johnny Lee Miller, who would also be best known, and because that this came out the same year, you know, with a show that being called Elementary, where he, of course, was none other than Sherlock Holmes. So, yeah. And then there's also Dr. Julia Hoffman, played by Helen Bonham Carter, at the time, Tim Burton's wife. And then, of course, Elizabeth Collins Stoddard? Am I saying that right? Yeah. Well, just, you know, I'll go with Elizabeth Collins. Elizabeth Collins being played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And actually, fun fact, this was Michelle Pfeiffer's second time working with Burton after Batman Returns. Literally, 20 years after working on Batman Returns, she would work again with Burton on this. And then, another thing is, Elizabeth and Roger, they're brother and sister. So, and then, of course, there's Elizabeth's daughter, almost lost her, Carolyn Stoddard, of course, played by the lovely, talented actress Chloe Grace Moretz. Chloe Grace Moretz. I got that right. I forget, there's a little bit of mentioning, as far as I can remember, like a little bit of mentioning of Carolyn's father. So, and Carolyn just the way she's acting as a teenager, and this is in the 1970s. So, and there was also this maiden, this old lady, Mrs. Johnson. Is that right? Ray Shirley, the actress's name. Yep, this is her. She would pop up. Mrs. Johnson would pop up a couple of times. She would have some funny moments. Yeah. I don't think she even had any lines. She just had a muted part. Oh, well. I've seen that before. So, Victoria, of course, is, welcome to the family, basically. And, David's governess. And even, we also find out, we get a little bit of origins with some of these characters. We learn that David's mother, and of course the wife of Roger, she died out at sea. And also Victoria, gosh, poor Victoria, she could interact and see a ghost. And her parents were a bit kind of creeped out, I guess, or anything, and they sent her to a mental hospital. Okay, for one thing, don't they know the fact of, say, imaginary friends? Are they unaware or aware of that? Or do they have a problem with that? I don't know. Of course, we find out, Victoria, she did escape from that mental hospital when she got a little bit older, and she was looking for some place to be, and she would become a governess, and thus that's where she would end up at. And then, of course, Angelica, we see Angelica again, Eva Green, and she's this owner of this fishing dock or something like that. And we do see that Barnabas, he escaped from his coffin after some construction workers discovered his coffin, and they broke off the chains, and he was killing all of them. But of course, it's acceptable what he said. My apologies. I'm dying of thirst. Yeah, being chained up there for 200 years. Yeah, like him being thirsty because he's a vampire, so he needs blood. And this was a pretty funny moment too, where he thinks it's the same symbol that was on a book that he wrote that he was reading, and it's he thinks it's what it was in the book because the letter M was yellow, and he sees it and it's the McDonald's sign. That's funny. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, Barnabas does return to his home, and he meets all of his relatives in that century and in the 1970s, and even a little conversation between Barnabas and Elizabeth, and it's their little secret, and that of what he is, a vampire and so on. Well, it's wait a minute, couldn't they have didn't say the kids kind of figured it out? I mean, his portrait was it's big and it was hanging at the fireplace, so I don't know. And even say, and Angelica and Barnabas reuniting, and and even at one point Barnabas meets with Clarny, if I'm saying that right, played by the late legendary horror icon Sir Christopher Lee, and he's this fisherman who had already signed a contract with Angelica, but Barnabas, with his mind control, his hypnosis or whatever, he gets him to sign a contract with him and such, and to reconstruct, or not reconstruct, but to make the fishing dock, that's owned by the Collins, to give a makeover and so on. And as far as I recall, this was the last film where Christopher Lee would work with Tim Burton. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, Tim Burton, he is lucky to have worked with both Vincent Price and Christopher Lee. That's amazing, And, well, we all know Tim Burton, obviously he grew up with those guys, so, and actually be able to work with them, that is astounding. So, and there's this little montage where it seems things are looking pretty good, Barnabas and the whole family making plans, and their mansion gets touched up a bit, and the same goes for the fishing dock, and the song Top of the World, such a feeling, da da da, that's playing, and some funny moments during the montage, for one, Barnabas is brushing his teeth, and you can see when the camera turns to the bathroom mirror, I should say, you can't see him because he's a vampire. You don't see vampires in reflections. So, and even say at one point, Barnabas throws a party at the mansion, and he kind of mistakens somebody for a girl, and that being Alice Cooper. Yeah, Alice Cooper. Who appears in this movie as himself, of course, because it's Alice Cooper really never aged and looks pretty good, even saying this, and because this movie takes place in 1972. So, there's a party going on with a disco ball and Alice Cooper singing some songs, and even at one point, Carolyn kind of, before Alice Cooper sings, Carolyn, kind of says, and I think direct to her mom, Mommy, where's Daddy? So, another mention of her dad. So, and oh yeah, if I recall too, yeah, I think this has been Chloe Grace's only Tim Burton film she's done. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, yeah. And more interactions and a relationship to evolving between Victoria and and Barnabas. And not to mention that, yeah, Victoria could still see the ghost of her past relative, one of her past relatives who was in a relationship with Barnabas, obviously. And I think, if I recall, David can see his mother, I believe, and then we would see her very later on. And also, there's also with Dr. Julia Hoffman, some interactions and such, sequences with her and Barnabas, and the fact she was stealing Barnabas's blood to become immortal. She wanted to be immortal and live forever and stay beautiful, even after a comment that Barnabas gave to Julia Hoffman, saying to her that, he thinks she's a very beautiful woman, and she wanted to be, and again, she stole his blood, and of course that pissed off Barnabas, and he took back his blood and basically killing Julia, and basically, throwing her out into the ocean. And that's when a little bit later on, Angelica, at one point, attacks Barnabas and, puts him back in, the coffin or whatever, and basically frames, I think, not only Barnabas, but the whole family, too, that they are murderers, that they killed Dr. Julia Hoffman, and of course, at one point, it seems like the town are against the Collins, and, well, even, Elizabeth is telling everybody that, that their family built this place on ground, the whole, town and so on. And that's when, oh yeah, David, at one point came in to help Barnabas out of, being locked up in a coffin. And, then, of course, Angelica kind of, does reveal to herself, to the townspeople, and to the police of what she is. And I kind of like it because, even the chief is, telling everybody to go home and such. They get the point, and, they know that the Collins are perfectly fine, and, it's Angelica, so they just want to stay out of it. And I forgot to mention, Roger, Johnny Lee Miller, who plays David's dad, Roger, well, he was threatened by Barnabas at one point. I mean, he found out about Barnabas, and he had no choice but to, he was, given two options, and one of them was to leave. And he did end up leaving his son, David becoming an orphan. And that's when, right after he leaves, well, Barnabas does save David from the disco ball, almost killing him. And he kind of gets burned from the sunlight, and he's revealed. He's revealed to everybody. And that's when a big fight between, and back to where I was, a big fight between Angelica and Barnabas, and even Elizabeth joining in. But then we kind of see what happens with Carolyn. Basically, at one point, Carolyn joins in the fight, fighting on Angelica, and she's a werewolf, and it's pretty funny because, I'm a werewolf, all right? Let's not make a big deal out of it. And then she's like, woof. I remember when I was watching that with my mom for the first time, again, when she watched it for the first time, she laughed at that. That's a funny moment, of course, when, literally she's just, woof. It is. And basically we find out from Angelica, she, sent a werewolf to turn Carolyn into a werewolf while she was asleep in her crib. She was the one, I'm talking about Angelica, she was the one that caused David's mother to kill herself, out into the sea. And of course, she reveals to Barnabas that she killed his parents and his first love. So, and Angelica is also made out of glass, she's very breakable, so. And she could never understand love, right before she dies, she could never understand love, and, Barnabas telling her, that is your curse. She pulls out her heart, and I think, it does shatter, and she's dead. So, even when, before that, she hit on the chandelier, it came down, and, yeah. And, everybody gets out of the mansion. It's, slowly but burning, unfortunately, and Angelica, before Angelica died, she did one last thing, and that is, cursing and commanding Victoria to kill herself. And, Barnabas is able to save her by, of course, biting her on the neck, and, Victoria becomes a vampire. So, yep, so now, they could be together for eternity. So, yeah. And also, the music by Danny Elfman. Hey, the music was pretty good in this. Anything that Danny Elfman has done, for a Tim Burton film. Fantastic, and this was pretty good. And also, right before the movie ends with the end credits, you thought that Dr. Julia Hoffman was killed. She drowned at sea. She was chained in the bottom of the ocean, but nope. She survived. She managed to become immortal and now is a vampire. So it feels like that it ended off like it left the door open for a sequel, possibly. Hey, I'd be down for a sequel, but you never know. We don't know. Just, sometimes, like, Burton, he never does a sequel to one of his, like, movies, but you never know. But with all that being said, Dark Shadows, I thought was pretty good. I'm one of those people that actually did enjoy this film. And I definitely... Oh, boy, how do I rate this? That's a good question. Because I thought this was pretty good, and I can't say it's a masterpiece or anything like that, I'll give it a... Yeah, 8 out of 10 stars. That's good, yeah. 8 out of 10 stars for Tim Burton's Dark Shadows. And what about you guys? What did you think of Dark Shadows? What did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review a like as always. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Dark Shadows. Again, 8 out of 10 stars. More reviews coming your way. Ugh. They're gonna be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And the next review, let me see. Oh yeah, it is something stop motion, and it's straight from Laika. If you do or do not know which one I'm talking about, but if you don't, you figure that out. And it's another perfect film to watch during Halloween. But anyways, stay tuned for that. And yep, and again, happy anniversary to Tim Burton's Dark Shadows. Take care and peace out.